When Chevy announced it was going to discontinue its affordable Bolt EV, the number of affordable electric cars really came down to the Nissan Leaf. Well, Chevy is back in the market with a new vehicle, this 2024 Chevy Equinox EV. And although it's not quite as affordable as the Bolt that preceded it, this is, I think, the affordable electric vehicle that America has been waiting for. This Equinox EV arrives with a starting price of around $35,000. Now, unfortunately, this one that we are driving here is not that $35,000 model. In fact, that model is not even on sale yet, although Chevy promises it will be on sale by the end of 2024. But even still, the one we're looking at is pretty well priced. We'll talk about it at the end of the video. You can skip forward and watch that if you want, but I encourage you to watch through this video because this is not the normal Equinox that you have come to expect. I think this is a much more compelling product. So although it wears the Equinox badge, the Equinox EV really doesn't share anything in common with the gas-powered one except for the name. You can tell that the front end is completely different here. This one that we have is the 2LT, so the one we're looking at might not be the affordable base model, but it is not the most expensive one either. This is a gorgeous riptide blue. I think it looks fantastic on the Equinox. You've got this cool connected light bar that a lot of these Chevy EVs are going with. If you want to wait for the 1LT, which is going to be that cheap $35,000 one, it won't have the connected headlight bar. It'll just have two headlights on either side. All of the other trims, I believe, do have this connected headlight bar. I think it looks quite nice. We've got the body color kind of grille there. The main headlight is actually that small light underneath the headlight bar, and then you have a little bit of silver underneath. Now we've got the 19-inch wheels that I believe the 1LT and 2LT are both riding on these same 19-inch wheels. You can actually get a different wheel on the RS trims. That's it over there in red. That is a 21-inch wheel, and you can see it looks pretty hot in that red as well. That is a 3RS trim, so that is pretty much the most expensive way to get an Equinox EV. But I think this middle one is really nice. This riptide blue pairs really well with this white roof. I believe this is the only color combo that you can get with the white roof. I love it. It reminds me of kind of like a Mini Cooper. I think it's really cute. The dimensions of this are very different from the normal Equinox. This car is longer, it's lower, it's wider, it has a much longer wheelbase than the gas-powered Equinox. I mentioned they are really not the same at all, other than the name. We do have a connected taillight bar here at the back as well with our normal Chevy bow tie. It's kind of funny. This is the GM Ultium logo that Chevy is using for all of their products. So the E's in all of the names like Silverado and Blazer, the E is replaced with these kind of blue bars. When you put it at the front and you put it on a blue car, it kind of looks like this badge just says Quinox and then there's just like a logo. Let me know what you think of that in the comment section. And now let's go ahead and open up our power liftgate, which you get optional on, or standard on the 2LT. It does not come standard on the Equinox EV. Now, believe it or not, the Equinox EV, despite being longer and having a longer wheelbase than the gas-powered one, has a little bit less cargo space than what you're gonna get in the standard Equinox. I believe that has to do with like the height, the roof height, and some other dimensional things like that. You're gonna get 26.4 cubic feet of storage back here compared to 29.8 in the gas one. Folding down the seats is going to open up 57.2 cubic feet compared to 63.5 in the gas-powered one. But I'm not really complaining about this amount of storage space. I think it is really good. There is no front trunk, just in case you're wondering, but you do get some nice little storage underneath here, some storage over there that is going to hold our charging cable. That is actually the standard charging cable that you get with this car. Should charge it up at about 7.5 kilowatt, but there is an optional one. It's like a $500 optional extra that you can charge quicker with. We'll talk a little bit more about that when we get it out on the road. Now, unlike some recent Chevy and GMC EVs, you've got these kind of handles that are going to pop out. They're motorized. Kind of an interesting touch here on an affordable EV like this. They're not the ones where you kind of have to push and pull like a Tesla. I mentioned that this is the 2LT, but I believe this is the same overall interior that you're going to get in the 1LT, the more affordable one. We've got kind of this leather, I believe it's faux leather, but it has a little bit of cloth up here. It does feel really nice and very premium. It is a very nice, comfortable, supportive seat. We've got a power driver seat on this one, manual passenger seat. You have to step up to the 3LT if you want a power passenger seat as well. On the 2LT, optionally, you can have this blue trim. My drive partner today kind of described it as when you have something like metal, like an appliance, and you have that blue plastic. It looks like that before you peel off the blue plastic. I'm not a big fan. I would probably get it without this, honestly. Although I do think it looks nice if you're going to get a blue car. If you get a red car, the blue is kind of going to look a little bit silly. You can also get a red interior if you go for the RS trim. You can get like a full red and black interior or a black interior with red accents. Now the red looks cool if you're going to do a red exterior like that, but if you were to do this blue, then I think the red would look kind of stupid. So I think it really just depends on your exterior color. Now, as I step in, something that you'll notice is there's actually no start button in the Equinox EV. Like a normal Equinox, you just put your foot on the brake and it's gonna go ahead and fire up everything. Now, the technology in here is really great. We've got this 11-inch digital gauge cluster. You can see I have it showing my Google map, but I can also change it with just one button here on the steering wheel to have sort of more conventional gauges. We've got a 17.7-inch, yep, that is absolutely giant, bigger than what you're gonna get in a Tesla Model Y, bigger than what you're gonna get in pretty much any EV at this price point. Standard, works great. Now, interestingly, it does not have Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. So, something to consider. It does work really well even though without them though. Don't let that like deter you from buying one. It has Google Maps that work really well. It has very good Google Voice Assistant, 360-degree camera standard. That is really cool. I mentioned we have heated seats, but you can also get ventilated seats if you step up to either the 3LT or 3RS models. Those are where ventilated seats are going to come in. We do have single zone automatic climate control here. You can get dual zone on those 3LT and 3 RS models as well. We've got more of that blue trim here, USB-C ports all throughout the vehicle, which is kind of interesting. And I should mention Super Cruise hands-free driving is available, not standard, on every trim except for the base 1LT. You can get Super Cruise. Now here in the back, thanks to that long wheelbase, we have plenty of room. If you're thinking about buying one of these as like an Uber vehicle for your side hustle, the legroom is really nice. The headroom, not as great. This is lower than a regular Equinox, I did point out, but it is really nice and roomy back here in terms of legroom. You are going to get air vents on this mid-level 2LT trim. You can also get heated rear seats on the 3LT and the 3RS models. All right, so let's get behind the wheel of the 2024 Chevrolet Equinox EV. Now, there are going to be two versions of this car that you can buy, a front-wheel drive version and an all-wheel drive version. There aren't different battery packs or anything like that to worry about, so it is a pretty simplified trim structure, at least in terms of the powertrains. We're in the front-wheel drive version right now, which produces 213 horsepower and 236 pound-feet of torque. Those are pretty decent numbers. Like if you compare it to the gas-powered Equinox, which has a 1.5-liter 4-cylinder engine, that only has 175 horsepower and 184 pound-feet of torque. So this is significantly more. And if you do need more power, you can get the all-wheel drive version, which is going to dial the power up to 288 horsepower with 346 pound-feet of torque. And the acceleration is going to change quite dramatically when you go from front-wheel drive to all-wheel drive. It's going to drop down from about 8 seconds in this front-wheel drive model to about 5.9, around 6 seconds in the all-wheel drive model from 0 to 60 miles an hour. But honestly, I've been driving the front-wheel drive one for a few minutes now, for almost an hour, and when I put my foot down, there's that initial shove that you get from the electric motors, and then it kind of runs out afterwards. You definitely feel it kind of trail off as you start to pick up speed. But this is going to feel really quick for anybody that's only ever driven gas cars. The instant acceleration is still going to hit you really well. Honestly, The thing that I would compare the Equinox to the most, not necessarily that it feels like it, but it feels like an elevated version of the old Chevy Bolt, which is a car that I enjoyed driving very much. Not that this is particularly sporty or that the Bolt was particularly sporty, but it's small, it's nimble, the steering is well tuned. We've been driving in Detroit, which has some really rough roads, but the suspension is doing a really nice job taking care of them. I really don't have any complaints about this, even though it's a quote-unquote affordable EV. This is what EVs do. They kind of elevate the experience, because a regular Equinox just doesn't really feel all that refined compared to the competition, but this feels lovely. So now let's gun it off the line here. Woo! There we go, okay. I don't think it's quite the tire shredder that the Chevy Bolt was, even though this has more power and more torque, but it gets off the line just fine. And if you need more, just get the all-wheel drive version. Now, we don't know exactly how big the battery is on the Equinox EV. Chevy and General Motors in general are just kind of cagey when it comes to sharing how big their battery packs are, but we can assume it's about an 85 kilowatt hour battery pack, which is a pretty good size for an entry-level EV such as this, and the range is pretty stellar. If you're gonna get front-wheel drive, you'll get 319 miles, and based on what the car is telling us, I think that that is actually a little bit of an underestimation. I think you'll actually get a little bit more than 319 miles, and if you opt for all-wheel drive, it's gonna drop down to about 285 miles, which is still really good range, either way, no matter which powertrain you choose. And the other great thing about it is that this car can charge at 11.5 kilowatts as standard on a level 2 outlet, which is really quick. You can add about 34 miles per hour if you have that type of charger. Now, the problem is you do have to spend extra. GM is going to give you a charger with this car, according to what Chevy engineers have told me, but that one is only going to charge it at about 7.5 kilowatts, not the full 11.5. So just something to think. You'll have to spend extra money if you want the 11.5 charger. I think you don't need it. This battery is not that big. You'll still get a full charge overnight, so it really shouldn't be a problem. And then when you do want to DC fast charge it, which is something you might want to do, it has 319 miles of range. This is way more range than what you got in the Chevy Bolt, so this is probably going to be a better highway driver. This charges 3 times faster than the Bolt did. The Bolt was limited at like 50 kilowatts. This will do 150 on a DC fast charger, meaning you'll add about 70 miles in 10 minutes, which is so much better if you're planning to take a road trip with it. Honestly, I'm kind of smitten with the Equinox. I really love the idea of an affordable electric vehicle that you can get in at an attainable price that has great technology, lots of safety, a nice size, good styling. There's really not a whole lot to dislike about it. Is it the most premium EV in its segment? Absolutely not. Is it the most fun to drive? No, definitely not either, but it is nice enough to drive. It does feel more premium in here than I was expecting, way more premium than the Chevy Bolt felt. In fact, I would like to call this the grown adults version of the Bolt, because the Bolt always felt like a great powertrain in a very cheap economy car. This feels like a great powertrain in a car that is ground up good from top to bottom. And I really want to commend GM for finally building a really nice EV at a good price. So that's going to wrap up our time with the 2024 Chevrolet Equinox EV. Now, the 1LT that I mentioned at the beginning of the video is not available yet, but it starts at just under $35,000. That is with destination included. I am so excited to give that one a try, because I don't think it misses out on too many important features from this 2LT trim that I drove, and I think that is going to be such a great price point. $35,000 with a $7,500 federal tax credit means that really, in reality, you're going to be spending under 30 grand for an EV that will go over 300 miles on a charge. That is a big win. But let's talk about the ones that you can buy now. This 2LT trim that I have been driving starts at $43,295, although there are options like Super Cruise on this one. The 2RS S, which is a little bit sportier, gets you 21-inch wheels, a flat bottom steering wheel, and some other styling differences. That is going to be $44,795, so a little bit more than the equivalent 2LT. Stepping up to the 3LT is going to be $45,295, and the 3RS is going to be $46,795. I know that with options, you can definitely take these up to and over $50,000. And if you want to add all-wheel drive, which is going to add more power but drop the range a bit, it's about $3,300 on any of the trims. So in summation, I think this is a great car at a really great price. I think it looks great. I think it has plenty of space inside. The technology is really well. It charges quick enough. The range is going to be what people really need to go about living their everyday lives. And I think it just looks good. I think you're going to see this. This doesn't just look like your regular old Equinox that blends in. Even in a color like gray or black, this thing looks really sleek. I think that Chevy, I lamented Chevy, I lambasted them when they killed the Chevy Bolt because it was a $26,000 EV. It didn't have the best interior. It wasn't the most powerful. It didn't charge that quick. It didn't have the best range. But what they've done is they've made a car that I think more people, it'll appeal to more people. It's bigger, it's better looking, it's got better technology, it charges faster, it goes further. It's everything that I think Bolt owners would want to upgrade from, and I really think I would even consider it as my next daily driver EV. But let me know what you think of the Equinox EV in the comments. As always, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell to be alerted of our latest videos, and I'll see you next time.